I've never seen a full Indiana Jones movie, but I have seen some of the most iconic scenes. Running from a boulder, the snake pit, the dual shot, switching the skull. I saw an Indiana Jones PS2 game that had been given trophies and saw it was on PS Plus, so I, on a whim, decided to play it for my channel. Since the game was proving to be pretty easy, I decided to make it one of my first platinums. Indiana Jones and the Staff of Kings on PS4 only has 21 trophies. Each chapter has a story progression trophy, a collectibles trophy, and random trophy that has to do with the environment, plus several miscellaneous ones. The story starts in Sudan in 1939, where Indy is chasing after some Nazis who are trying to steal some ancient artifacts, including an old acquaintance, Magnus Voller. On the way to the Nazi camp, we come across a glowing hat, which is actually a collectible artifact that we have to be on the lookout throughout the game for various trophies. We learn the fighting mechanics, including using our whip, which was so fun, and I bet it was awesome on Wii. We got to the German base and got to punch our first Nazi and collect another artifact / fortune, as they're called in the game. We hijack a plane to chase after, I think, our old research colleague. It's been almost 6 months since I've played this. During the flight, I get my first trophy for destroying 8 planes. The guy we're chasing escapes, but at least we get a trophy for finishing the chapter. On our search for an artifact called the Jade Sphere, we arrive in San Francisco to meet up with a friend. His granddaughter is kidnapped, so we have to save her. On the way to save her, we get a trophy for throwing 25 combat items. Shortly after, I learn how to use a gun and it explodes in dynamite boxes. It took several minutes, but at that point in time, I was still pretty inexperienced with using controllers to shoot things, and just using them in general. I grew up a PC gamer. Still learning how to aim with a controller, I tried many times to fight this mob boss dude. I electrocute him, and somehow Indy's friend walks across the whip with little problem, as if she is used to walking on tightropes, which maybe she is. We don't get a lot of lore on her. After Indy goes on a homemade in-house roller coaster, he lands on an old pirate ship and finds the Jade Sphere among some cannonballs. After bamboozling his German ex-peer, we save the grandpa and get a badass yet frustrating fight sequence on the trolley. The hills mess me up so much, but I get a trophy for finishing the chapter. The next chapter takes Indy to Panama, and I'm reminded of how much I hate swamps. In Panama, we meet Maggie O'Malley, a journalist / British agent who Indy is infuriatingly condescending to. With the help of a couple goats, we attempt to save a small village, but clearly the whole livelihood is burned too much to be saved. We arrive at the base of this gorgeous temple where we fight this fire wielder without our gun, which conveniently gets jammed, so he has to be defeated with his whip, rocks, and knee. After a few puzzles and a couple fights with more Nazis, we get to one of my least favorite parts of the game, the ball pit. The concept isn't too hard, and once I figured out which hoop thing to target, the hard part is grabbing and keeping hold of the ball because the bigger rolling balls are a bit overwhelming when they target Indy all at once. After about half an hour, I finally finished the Mayan game. We are back in the rainforest, and I swear I can feel the humidity. We run through another cool set piece and arrive at a puzzle that I just could not for the life of me grasp. So I folded and I looked up a solution because combined with the ball pit, it was making me close to crying. We met up again with Maggie and learned some lore about a magic staff called the Staff of Kings. Oh my god, that's the title of the game! After Maggie saves Indy, I get a trophy for finishing the chapter. Maggie and Indy decide to team up and travel to Istanbul to meet with Indy's former professor while the Germans arrive at the palace. Sometimes the camera movement when you look around corners to shoot really messes me up, but this little battle was so funny with how it turned out. They just killed their own guy! Holy fuck. This underground mausoleum set was so cool, but also frustrating, but in a perfect amount, and I don't know. Maybe it's the feminine inclination to be fascinated with death, but this is one of my favorite settings in the game. I press some buttons and make stone warrior dudes come out of the ground, and I get a trophy for defeating an enemy with a sword, which then ricochets onto another guy. I gather the boys around, and they send me down to another underground area, while meanwhile, Maggie is being an idiot and drinks something a stranger gave her, or maybe she pretends the game didn't focus too closely on it. Indy and Maggie escape the Germans on an elephant, which was a stylish escape if I've ever seen one. The elephant wrecks some Nazi cars, and the story trophy pops. In Nepal, Maggie is again a fool and goes on her own in the freezing cold and snowy mountain weather without waiting to rest for a bit with her climbing partner. In a nearby Nepal village, Indy talks to this guy named Charles, who is his and Muller's old professor, about how Maggie went after the staff when a zeppelin flies overhead. I punch more Nazis, explode a rock, and listen to a string section go crazy. Can the violin in the background show for one moment? After starting some magic fire that looks like Hades from Disney's Hercules, a trophy pops for finishing warming up at every campfire. I'm pretty sure I missed one at the start of the chapter, but I'll take it. I solve another cool statue puzzle, this time dabbling in pyrotechnics, and find the Staff of Kings, only to be partially betrayed by Maggie. Voller and his Nazi buddies take Maggie hostage and claim the staff. Indy rides a corpse down some raging rapids and lands on top of the German Zeppelin, ending the chapter and popping a trophy. Now on the Zeppelin, the Odin, I shoot and punch more Nazis, including a big Nazi. Kicked him right in the grundle. I save Maggie despite dealing with more than a couple bugs when fighting the enemies. The professor and Voller are arguing, and when Voller gloats about having the staff, Charles sacrifices himself so Indiana has a chance to get it from him. Voller parts the sea, and Maggie and Indy get the fuck out of there before the sea falls on them again, escaping in a motorcycle with a sidecar of all things. This chase took me so many tries because the game didn't tell me I could go faster, so I kept getting caught by the waves. I also died on purpose a couple times to get the 2 collectibles in the chapter, which thankfully I accomplished pretty quickly. Even though this game could be frustrating at times, at least it was for an at the time inexperienced console gamer, the fight sequences were always varied and interesting. Eventually I escape the waves and get the end of chapter trophy. Indy gets the staff, Voller bites it, the storm is stopped, Indy gets the girl, and the staff turns into a snake, and thus concludes the series on my channel. I decided to get the most ridiculous trophy done quickly though, and get a level done while Indy has a big head. I just replayed the last one because it was the shortest, but I still have more trophies to get. The first thing I did to start finishing the platinum was to go back to Sudan to get the last collectible artifact. At this point, I decided to just look at a guide and find them. Oh my god, as I'm writing this script, going back through the footage, I was not expecting the big head setting to still be on. What a shot, big head Indy running at the camera as the trophy popped. Because that was the only thing I needed from Sudan, I hurried back to the main menu and moved on to San Fran to get the missing 4 artifacts, again using a guide. At times the guide wasn't super clear about certain things, but I eventually got them all. This last one, I knew how to get it. The game was just bugging out during my playthrough and wouldn't let me get it, but thankfully this time it worked. In Panama, I had 5 collectibles and the special trophy for the chapter to get yet. The last collectibles were spread out, making me really glad that not only were their chapters select, but each chapter was split into smaller sections, making trophy hunting very painless. After I found all the artifacts, I skipped Istanbul to knock out Nepal first, because the chapter was shorter, with 3 out of 5 artifacts already collected. I got the last hidden shiny hat and the trophy popped. I was so glad because I could hear the little sparkling sound the hats make, but I couldn't find it without a guide and it was driving me insane. After I finished Nepal, I go back to Panama to continue looking for where to release some kittens, which I sadly didn't get to see nor pet. During my playthrough, I had pressed the other button, but foolishly assumed the other button, the one I had to press for the trophy, did nothing different. On Istanbul, I was surprised that I had already found 10 out of 12 artifacts by myself. This was an instance where I wish the guide I was using had chapter sections included, like chapter 3, 4, whatever. Up to that point, I had been looking at the screenshots on the guide and deciding which chapter sections looked the most similar. Because sometimes I was wrong, there was a fair amount of back and forth between menus until I chose the correct location. It wasn't that big of a deal, but still, that could have been improved. Behind another wall, I found the last collectible in the game. The most challenging trophy I had to get was driving through the Pirated Sea without getting hurt. I spent the next 40 minutes using the rewind feature, which I have since forgotten how I did that and which buttons I pressed to finish this trophy without having to restart the level every time I got damaged. Halfway through trying to get that trophy, I took a break to get the trophy for viewing all concept art and artifacts collected. I eventually get the target lock trophy, Indy saves the staff, gets the girl, and the staff turns into a snake again. But more importantly, I get the platinum trophy, which was my 4th platinum at the time. At the time I'm recording this, I now have 10 platinums. In the comments, I would appreciate if you recommended some platinums for beginners that are on PS Plus. I have no actual PlayStation other than Portal, as well as the computer app for PS Plus. Maybe if they have collectibles too. I actually like those trophies, which from what I gather is an unpopular opinion. And if you like this video, don't forget to like it and be on the lookout for more platinum videos.